Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome
Yay!
back. Happy Monday, sweetheart. Great to see you.
Happy Monday. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's. Yes, we'll get to that. Love. Stand by.
Yeah, it's about love.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there listening, especially Kevin Richardson, who's here with us today for his show. Excited to talk to our hypnotherapist, Dr. Kevin Richardson.
Oh,
Happy Valentine's Day. How are you, darling?
Happy Valentine's. Great. Today is my 28th anniversary.
Congratulations. Wow. Wow. You did on Valentine's Day. That's amazing.
Well, I forget any other date.
It's true. It's true, right? Good point. I love your honesty.
Well, I gotta be, a lot of us guys have trouble kind of remembering some of those dates.
Yep, I know, right? Yes. Well, happy anniversary. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Please give us a little bit of your background. We're live on Zoom and, of course, doing the podcast as well.
I'm Kevin Richardson, and I'm a certified hypnotherapist. And I'm here to help you guys keep track on life and to help you take back your lives and take control of your lives. So,
yeah.
So my website is www.kevinrichardsontherapy.com, and phone number is 760-902-2274. So
perfect.
Yay.
What do we have in mind today? There's so many different ways that you can help, and each and every week we always talk about stuff.
There's 145 ways. And what came to mind for today was I wanted to talk about falling, and probably be a good topic about falling in love, but that's not what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about people over the 65 and they fall, and what happens? And you're probably wondering, now, how does hypnotherapy work into this? Well, I'll get to that. Stay tuned. But first, I wanted to share some statistics from the Centers for Disease Control. People over the age of 65, it costs about $50 billion a year in injuries and hospitalizations. And it's 3/4 of it, it's paid by Medicare and Medicaid.
Wow.
So it's a huge deal. In 2019, 3 million people went to the emergency room because of falls. That's, put it in perspective, that's about the size of the city of Denver, Colorado. Wow. That's huge. Yeah. Can you imagine the entire city of Denver going to the emergency room in a year? That's mind-boggling. In 2019, 34,000 people died from their falls. So 1 out of 5 people over the age of 65 fall. 1 out of 2 who fracture a bone do not survive the year, which that's 50% mortality rate. That's huge. That is huge. And you're probably wondering, why am I thinking about this? Well, my father passed away 22 years ago on February 7th, a week ago today, 22 years ago. And he passed away because he fell. He fell in the bathtub, hit his head, fractured 7 ribs, 7 vertebrae, and punctured a lung. And that was, he was from Nebraska. And he always told me every year, people in Nebraska, every year they would sit down on their birthday, they would take their birthday bath. That was just a tradition.
Yeah.
Never understood it. I still don't to this day. But every birthday, he would go in and take a nice hot bath and stay in there forever. And he did it. And 2 weeks after he turned 83, he passed away.
Hmm.
So it does hit home. Actually, my mother fell, hit her head, had a subdural hematoma, and then ended up passing away. So it's huge.
But
It is,
did you just hear about Bob Saget?
yes,
You know,
he
he died
fell.
and he had some type of head trauma. So he probably fell. They're saying, they're speculating, bathtub, nightstand, something, and
Yeah,
went to bed.
he fell backwards and
Yeah.
he fractured his skull. 65 years old. My uncle fell in the bathroom, hit his head, and he passed away right then and there. So this can be serious. Now we're probably like, all right, so how does hypnotherapy fit into this? Stay tuned. We're going to get there. As we get older, our body changes and we go through several physical changes. Number one, vision. Our vision changes. So what happens? Our night vision changes. I can remember my grandparents, when they would visit, grandma would always say to grandpa, okay, grandpa, it's 3 o'clock. It's time to get headed home before it gets dark. You really don't like to drive after dark. Then when my parents hit retirement age, they started saying, okay, Ma, it's time to go home. It's going to get dark soon. We got to get off the road before it gets dark.
Yeah.
And I'm going, what is this? So Friday night, we went out to dinner and we went early because we were saying, we just don't like to drive after dark.
Mhm.
I don't like going out after dark. I don't like driving after dark. And it's because of vision. So what happens? Well, as we get older, the muscles that dilate our pupils weaken and they're not able to dilate the pupil big enough for us to get sufficient night vision light to the back of our retina. So we're not getting as much light. Also, the lens in our eyes, they yellow as we get older. And so our color vision changes. I noticed this working as a young occupational therapist in the clinics. I'd be working with patients and I would show them a navy blue card and they'd say it was black. Going, this is weird. And I would show them a brown card and they'd say, well, that's black.
Yeah.
And I saw that consistently across the board. And I thought, well, what is this? In doing research on falls, I found out that our lenses change and they yellow. Yellow is in brown. And when yellow will affect colors. So it goes to black. They see black.
Wow.
Wow, this is really cool. When I was working in the nursing homes, I would watch clients or patients walk down a hallway that has all these yellow signs going wet floor, and they were bright yellow, and they were not even seeing them.
Wow.
And that's why, because when your lens is yellow turns to white. So for us, we don't recognize it.
True. We
don't see the color yellow. The color we do see is red. But all of our caution signs are in yellow. So for the older population, they see the yellow sign, it doesn't trigger that it's a caution sign. So it can cause falls. So if you're walking across a wet floor, you can fall. Walking across ice, you can fall. The other thing that changes is our muscle strength. As we get older, we lose muscle mass. We just get weaker as we get older. I've noticed that myself.
Yep. Yep.
I buy cat litter by 50-pound boxes.
I can't pick it up. They're 40 pounders at Costco, and now they made it into little bags. And I have such an issue, that and water bottles. I can't pick it up anymore. I'm like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, really. I can't either. The FedEx guy delivered a box full of 4 50-pound boxes of litter. And he said, "Where do you want me to put it?" I said, "Just put it on the sidewalk. I'll just come out and I'll unload it one at a time." I can't listen anymore. So as we get older, muscle mass changes.
Yep.
Our legs get weaker. The other thing that changes is our balance, our inner ear. Our inner ear is our balance system. Now, balance is comprised of vision, sensory feedback, in other words, the proprioception, which is the sense that tells us where our legs are and our body is in space. So if we're bending our leg, that proprioceptive nerve tells us that we've bent our leg. Well, that gets weaker as we get older. And if you have diabetes and something like that, you might have peripheral neuropathy, which then you don't feel anything. You're just numb. So vision, muscle strength, and sensory feedback makes up balance. Those are the 3 major components of balance. If any one of those changes, the chance for falls increases. Now, when I was working in the hospitals, falls were like the #1 issue. And I kept saying, well, they're under anesthesia, they're on drugs. There are medications that do cause dizziness. There's medications that cause blood pressure to drop when you stand up. So older people tend to be on those medications. So when we go to stand up, we get dizzy. And sometimes we don't recognize that we get dizzy until it's too late, and then we pass out. And then we fall.
Yeah.
So, the golden years, such wonderful years.
Yeah.
So with changes as we get older, our risk for falls increases. Now, how does hypnotherapy come into this? I'm getting there. We're tying it all together. It's going to be tied up in a neat little bow. There are 3 types of falls. Who knew? I thought you fell.
Yeah.
Well, there's 3 basic types of falls. There's the trip. That's where you don't see a variation in height and you stub your toe and it knocks you off balance. Well, our reflexes aren't as good as they used to be. And so we just tend to go down. So when we trip, we tend to fall forward.
Okay.
And that's where we tend to put our arms out in front of us to try and protect us if we can get them out there fast enough. So this is where we can see facial fractures. This is where we can see a broken nose. This is where we can see wrist fractures, shoulder fractures. So this is where you typically see upper body fractures. Now, the other type of slip or the other type of trip is a slip. Now, what's a slip? That's when you put your heel down and you lose traction and out you go and your feet go out in front of you and you fall backwards. Kind of what they're speculating about Bob Saget, where he fell backwards, he fractured his skull.
Wow.
So when you fall backwards, you really have no protection. You really can't break the fall. When you go, and there's no stopping it. So what kind of fractures, what kind of injuries do we see with that? Well, we see hip fractures. That's where we see the pelvic fractures. That's where we see the spinal cord, the vertebra fractures, the compression fractures in the vertebra. Because if we sit down on our bottom, we hit really hard and it can fracture the vertebrae. It can break our neck and we can have skull fractures, head injuries. So, and then the third type of fall is a fall from a height, such as a stepladder. Kind of a funny story. I came home one night and all the lights were on in the house. My dad grew up during the Depression. During the Depression years, one light on at a time. And when you left the room, you turn off the light.
Yep.
I'll never forget that. That to this day, I still remember, turn out the lights when you leave the room.
Yep.
And I came home and all the lights were on in the house. And I'm like,
What?
What's going on?
Yeah. Wow.
So I walk in the house, Dad, oh, Dad, no answer. And I'm going, oh my God.
You're like,
run downstairs, run upstairs, going, oh my God, where's Dad? So then I went out in the backyard and I thought, well, did he fall down in the backyard? So I thought, Dad. And then I hear this, is that you, Kevin? And I'm going, where are you?
what?
Huh? And I couldn't place where the voice was. It was on the roof.
Oh my gosh. What?
He was on the roof. And I'm going, what are you doing up there? You're not supposed to be on a ladder. And he says, oh, never mind that. Just get the ladder. The ladder fell down.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So he didn't fall off a ladder, but he couldn't get down because there was no ladder. It fell down. So I had a rule in the house. I said, Dad, no more climbing on ladders. And he just looked at me and pointed one finger at me and said, son, remember one thing. I'm your father. You're my son. I tell you what to do. You don't tell me what to do. I went, oops, okay. So, and in a lot of families that happens where the kids become the parents to the parents. That's where you get the role reversals in older age. So you have the three types of main falls. You have the trip, the slip, and the fall from a height. The fall from the height, the injuries can be catastrophic. A few years ago, I was working with two patients that both of them fell off step ladders. Both of them had neck fractures, and both of them were quadriplegic. One of them came out of the hospital. The other one did not. So it's a real mixed bag as to what's going to happen if you fall off a ladder. If you land on your feet, you could have pelvic fractures, hip fractures, ankle fractures. Who knows? If you fall on your back, you could have rib fractures, vertebral fractures. You could have neck fractures. You could have skull fractures. So falls are a big deal. So why hypnotherapy? Well, let's go there now. Hypnotherapy. So many folks, after they have fallen, will develop a fear of falls. And we've talked about this before. I've talked about some clients that I was seeing on working on fear of falling. And fear is a part of the fight, flight, freeze syndrome. And it's there to protect us. It's there to keep us safe. We're there to stay safe. And from the fight, we really can't fight anymore. Well, on airplanes, I guess we are, but bad joke.
I know. I saw. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God. But that turns into a fear. And the fear it just grows and grows and grows. And it's a mistake where the subconscious is making a mistake in trying to prevent us from injury.
Mhm.
And so hypnotherapy can help with that. Now, what do we do? Well, first we speak with the client about what happened, what occurred, what was in the event. What was the event? You fell. How did you fall? Did you break anything? Did you break a hip? Did you break a shoulder? What happened? Did you hit your head? So we explore that in depth.
And
Then we ask, do you know when this happened? We want to know what the onset date was. And many times people remember the date that they fell and broke their hip. So it's just one of those events that just is stamped on the brain. It's just the date stamp on the brain when you fell. So what we do is through hypnosis, we're able to go from the conscious into the subconscious.
Mhm.
And then we can do several different things. We can take them back to that event and then desensitize it, kind of take away the impact of that, reduce that fear and make it something that's more comfortable and help the subconscious to turn that into a protective response rather than an overprotective response. So it takes time to do that.
Mhm.
It's also working with anxieties, because when people are going into fear, they become extremely anxious. So it's helping to desensitize the fall, but also help them to learn how to relax and reduce the anxiety. The other thing that we do is we help them with their self-confidence. Because after they have fallen and after they have injured themselves, or after they've developed the fear of falling, they no longer have confidence in their capabilities. So we're helping to redevelop their confidence in their capability of being able to stand up. It takes several sessions to do that. But after we're done, I told you about that one lady I was working on.
The one with the fear of falling. Did
Did
she actually break a hip? Is that what happened?
Yes. And she hit her head. Head also. And she had a fear of falling. And she was a highly intelligent research scientist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. She had more doctorates than I had years alive, I think. But that fear overtook her. And even through logical reasoning and deductive logic, she could not overcome that fear.
Wow.
But through hypnosis, we did 9 sessions. She's now up out of bed.
Wow.
She's walking more and more. She's a happy camper. So what the really cool part about it is that I was working hand in hand with the physical therapist. I would put the client into hypnosis. Then while she's in hypnosis, the physical therapist would come and work with her. When you're in hypnosis, you don't lose consciousness. You're still fully aware. You're still fully alert. You can still follow directions. Everything is still functional. It is just a laser focused relaxation is all it is. So she was able to perform under hypnosis with just the reduction of the anxiety. And now she's up out of bed, which is wonderful. It is wonderful. I have another client today, same thing, fear of falling. And she's been in bed probably 2 years now.
Wow.
So it's going to take a little bit longer to work with her, but the anxiety and the fear are just enormous, just huge. So working with, first we have to work on the anxiety.
Mm.
Then we can start working on the fear. And my plan for her is, there's a technique called I think it's called the cinema technique. And that's where you have them go into hypnosis and they're imagining sitting in a movie theater, just for them. And it's about their life. And they're looking at a motion picture of their life.
Yeah.
And we take them back to where that injury first occurred. And we first look at it slow, and then we rewind it and have them imagine it. People are walking backwards, people are talking backwards. And it's kind of funny at that point. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, the early slapstick films, didn't they run it backwards on occasion?
Yep.
So to make it slapstick funny.
Funny or slapstick funnier.
Yeah. So, so that's the technique we're going to work on, is having her in the movie theater, picturing her life. And then we're going to have her imagine she's still watching the movie, but then the other part of her goes up into the projection room and controls the projector. So she's in control of her life. Then we'll run it forwards, we'll run it backwards, we'll run it fast forward, we'll run it fast backward, and begin to desensitize that. And then working on the anxiety really is working on the self-confidence, building up the self-confidence again. So, phew, we got a lot of work to do. But I guess the purpose of what I wanted to talk about was falls, because it cost America $50 billion a year. And it's projected to go up over 100 billion by 2030. And so working as an adjunct with the doctors, working with the therapists as an adjunct, a hypnotherapist can help people regain their lives back. So many of the folks, when they have such a fear of falling, and then like this one lady that I saw a while back, the really highly intelligent lady with the fear of falling, who's now out of bed, there was a time when she just refused all therapy, just flat out refused it, just became hateful and just fought and fought and fought. But through hypnotherapy, we were able to reduce that fear, the fear, flight, or freeze. And we were able to reduce that to where at least the physical therapist could begin to work with her and work with her in bed. And then through hypnosis, we got her out of bed. And it worked. It worked. It was, I think I'm the only one that's done that. And it's still kind of a new thought, is working in conjunction with therapy and working with folks that are difficult, that have a difficult time, and helping them to overcome their fear and overcome their anxieties. So on the day of love,
Yes, go ahead, I love it. Don't fall, and go ahead.
On the day of love, let's talk about loving our elders, and let's talk about helping our elders to stay safe. This is the day to appreciate and to love our fellow people, our families and our friends. So, that's why I wanted to talk about it today. It's showing love for folks who are really not feeling loved because they fell, and they're not loving themselves. And so hypnotherapy can help folks to love themselves again.
Beautifully said. I love our Valentine's Day edition, Kevin Richardson.
Oh, you're welcome.
Doctor, tell us how we can reach out to you to book a session and a consult.
Well, to book a session, you can call me 760-902-2274. My email is kevinrichardsontherapy@gmail.com. That's Kevin Richardson Therapy, all one word,
Mm-hmm.
@gmail.com. Phone number 760-902-2274. And today of all days, today's the day to love your elders. Give me a call.
We will. Thank you so much for reminding us of that. Kevin, have a great day, and
You
we'll see you next
too.
week. Enjoy
Yay.
the Love Day, and happy anniversary to you.
Thank you.
Look into my
Bye-bye.
eyes.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.